Greetings people of the internet, Lachlan here, back with another video. And today I'm going to cover a topic which might land me in some hot water. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about how there is the practice of selective remembrance of history. These days, it seems as though the prevalent narrative is that white people are the arbiters of all moral evil in the world, and we alone are guilty of crimes against humanity that must be paid for. I'm making this video not to claim that white people have not committed acts of horrendous evil against our fellow man, but to remind you that white people do not hold a monopoly on cruelty and violence. It is not untrue to say that human history is a tale of conquest. From the time the first caveman killed his brother with a sharpened rock for an extra slice of meat, humans have been using violence to take what they wanted. For example, someone like Genghis Khan, the ruler of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan is reported to have had so many children and raped so many women that his DNA shaped the genetic structure of much of Asia. Meaning that if they go back far enough in their family lines, many Asian families can trace some part of his bloodline within themselves. More close to home, here in South Africa, we have Shaka Zulu. Shaka Zulu, by any objective moral standard, was a genocidal dictator. He used military might to force other tribes to assimilate to his will, and if they did not do that, they were simply killed. And yet, Shaka is revered today as some sort of mythical folk hero. There are even several places named after him, including the international airport in Durban, and, of all things, a theme park and aquarium. Now, why is it that when white people commit crimes against humanity, such as apartheid, they are rightly remembered as evil monsters who should be relegated to the rubbish heap of history? And yet, when non-white rulers commit similar crimes, they attain the status of mythical legends and folk heroes. I'm seeing a very obvious double standard which I consider unfair. I'm not claiming by any stretch that the evils of colonialism are somehow acceptable, or that action doesn't need to be taken to redress the damage it did. However, it seems very clear to me that this narrative of white people and only white people being responsible for the world's ills serves a very narrow group of people who claim to stand for justice and empathy, but really are just looking for someone to blame their own inadequacies on. I believe that unless we are able to move past petty blame games and focus on the world as it is now, dealing with the problems of the moment, there will be no salvation for us as a species. a very topical example at the moment was that recently a nationwide protest was held here in South Africa by the name of Black Monday. Black Monday was organized to raise awareness of the high numbers of South African farmers who've lost their lives to violent crime. South Africans were encouraged to wear black in acknowledgement of this. I myself did not wear black, as I do not believe wearing any specific kind of clothing would make any tangible difference to the world. However, when I stated in an online discussion that the murder of farmers is a hugely negative thing for the well-being of our country, I was told to shut up twice by a non-white person who claimed that I was simply excusing the violence that farmers have historically used against their workers, and that I was putting farmers on a pedestal. Because if the farmers died, I wouldn't be able to get my fancy food from Woolworths. The person who claimed this had never spoken to me before and knows nothing about the circumstances of my life, and yet she assumed that simply because I'm white, I have a privileged lifestyle. For anyone who would argue that I don't have the right to an opinion on social issues because of my quote-unquote white privilege, I want to explain something to you. I have been disabled since birth. I have cerebral palsy and I'm a quadriplegic. Not only that, but for the past 4 months, I have been unemployed. I'm currently able to survive because of savings that I earned myself, as well as some support from my parents, who are both nearing retirement. Now, you might argue that I am privileged in that I have parents who can support me when I need it. But I ask you this: why should I feel guilt for the fact that my parents, who also worked hard to receive what they have, are using those resources to support me? If I were able to, I would be supporting myself entirely. But unemployment here in South Africa is extremely high right now, and unless something changes, that's only going to get worse. It currently stands at around 30%. And there seems to be no real effort by government to redress that situation. My belief is that all this racial strife that South Africa experiences won't end because the political elite and those in the houses of power benefit from the animosity and hatred. The ANC, which is the African National Congress, for those who don't know of South African politics, has been in power since the fall of apartheid and has become progressively more corrupt as time has passed. Corruption is the cause of millions of rands in loss every year, and our politicians sometimes imply and sometimes outright state that white people have a duty to surrender what they have for the crimes of their forebears, all the while living in the lap of luxury, travelling in jets and BMWs, and smiling down their noses at the suffering of the ordinary South African. It is a well-known fact that our president, Jacob Zuma, is currently being investigated for attempting to capture state power entirely, along with Indian businessmen, the Gupta family. And yet, somehow the narrative persists that white people are to blame for all this country's ills. I believe that unless South Africans begin to see the reality of life for what it is, we're all doomed, and we will never proceed any further in life. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to share it, give it a like, or support me on PayPal. Have a great day.